What is going on, everybody, and welcome to Saturday morning NHL Strategy Show, sponsored by BetMGM. I'm your host, Josh Harris. Forgot my name there for a second. Joining me, as always, is my co-pilot, Slim Cliffy. How are we doing today?
Yeah, I'm your host today. You guys know me from previous shows. Doing good, man. I didn't play much last night. I was telling you before the show. I just played one for the Iron Man. Went to a movie last night. Went to go see Babylon. That movie is absolutely out of its mind in the best possible way. Enjoyed it. Got home fairly late. Watched Edmonton absolutely beat the brains in Seattle. Well, there you go. I didn't watch the whole game, obviously, getting home late, but Seattle goaltending, man. Seattle goaltending comes through once again, depending on which side of the ledger you were on last night.
Yeah, Grubauer gave up 3 goals on 5 shots, I think, and then got yanked. Then Party Marty came in, gave up 4 goals on like 2 shots. So, yeah, just brutal goaltending.
Yeah, kind of been their calling card all this season and all last season. That Grubauer contract certainly not looking very good for the Kraken.
No, and they need a goalie because they have a pretty good team, but there's no one to trade for. We'll see what happens at the trade deadline. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to our boss, Soaker Jake Harry. He got all the totals and projections up in the lineup builder early. He's in Central Time, so it's pretty early for him. So thank you, Jake. That helps us out when we go through the show. Unfortunately, DraftKings really botched this slate here. There are 12 games, and they split it up for 3, 4, 5. The main slate is 7 p.m., 5-game slate. GPPs are okay, but the early and the afternoon slates are just absolutely awful. If they wanted a split slate like that, I think they could have added like the one to the 5 o'clock games and ran like a double main slate. But you know what? I have no expectations. I would love to be a fly in the wall on one of their meetings for the NHL product, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping they'd slide. Yeah, like it'd be 6 and 7 o'clock my time, 5 and 6 o'clock Eastern. I was hoping they'd slide those into the main slate, especially considering it's New Year's Eve. Not everybody. Some people will be going out. I don't think people are going to be sitting around at home if they have plans to make sure that their lineups are fine at 9:30 Eastern or whatever it is. It probably would have been best just to have a little bit of an earlier lock. I don't know, but it is what it is. But we do have games to talk about at least, which is always nice and a good way to finish off what has been quite the calendar 2022 year in the NFL.
Yeah, it went. King Bacon Pie is just an absolute festival this morning. But this year went so slow and so fast. Can't pick up the bone. Yeah, like I'm excited to get to 2023. But man, these games today, not great. We're going to talk about at least the 3-game morning slate or the 3-game afternoon slate. Early slate, because at least there is a $10,000 guaranteed prize pool in that one. Before we get into it, though, you all know the drill, especially everyone here early this Saturday morning. You're already liked and subscribed, but if you don't, smash that like button. Helps us out a lot. Subscribe so you keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and much more. Once you subscribe, hit the notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. Also, don't forget to sign up for the Stokastic Hall of Fame. Very easy. All you got to do is change your avatar in DraftKings and FanDuel, which you could do by going to stokastic.com/avatar. Download it. Then you got to place in the top 3 of a contest with over 5K contestants. That's the tough part. If you do, tweet Stokastic HOF on Twitter or email us with the screenshot, and you get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Hi! Michael, is your Avi on DraftKings Stokastic? Mine is. I know yours isn't. Yours is that chick from the wrestling promotion.
Yes, I have the same one for a couple online video games. Somebody asked me the other day if it was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wearing sunglasses. I was like, no, that is not the avatar at all.
Sasha Banks, of course. Now I remember now.
Yeah.
Harry Carey doesn't know who Sasha Banks is, but Josh remembers. Now I'm talking to myself in pseudo third person. What a morning we are having. Let's talk about this 3-gamer. We got Boston, Buffalo, Columbus, Chicago, and Vegas, Nashville. Like, that would be sweet to be on the main slate because these games are absolute festivals. But like as it is, there's a 2K to first in the early slate, which is kind of it's bad. I don't want to just roast DraftKings because they've actually listened to us about putting in the $5 150 max. So I guess you take the good with the bad. I'll just go through these here real quick, then we get some Cliffy's thoughts. Boston has a big total. They have a 3.9 total. Buffalo's penalty kill not too good. Defensively, they're not great. So, again, if you're going to play Boston, it's that scenario where you want the top line, but you also want Pastrnak, who's really expensive. He's $9,500. But you know what? I'm going to put him in if I'm playing Boston. We don't have ownership on the early slate, but I would imagine Boston's going to be pretty chalky. Tage Thompson, 9,100 on DraftKings on the road going into Boston. That's going to be a big no for me, dog, getting the Bergeron line. That line's really expensive. So if anything, I'd probably go to like Buffalo too, but I don't know if I'm going to prioritize Buffalo here. In the next game, this game is just absolute scene. I guess it would be both top lines, Ralzovic, Gaudreau, Bemstrom, Domi, Kane. It's a 6 over under trending towards a 6.5. If you have a lean in this game, play them. I kind of lean towards the Columbus top line just because they're fully correlated. They're at home. They have a bigger total. It's just, I don't know. This game just, it could end up being like 5-4 and like one person has a 3-point bonus. You know what I mean? In the last one, Vegas. The Vegas lines are just absolutely not great at all. I don't even know how to pronounce the guy on the top line with Stevenson and Stone. Pavel Dorofeyev, maybe. But like Nashville played yesterday. They won. Like their lines are a mess. I think you can just concentrate on the power play one guys for Vegas since Nashville's penalty kill isn't great. And Saros went yesterday, I believe. So, I think for me, I'd be prioritizing Boston here.
Yeah, I'll start with the last game first. Nashville, Vegas. The lineup sites, it won't surprise you to hear that we draw from have not updated their lines appropriately. It is Michael Amadio that's still on the top line for Vegas with Stevenson and Stone. Apologies. And they've been pretty good in a small-ish sample together. Amadio, I said it, I think on the last show Vegas was on, that he's a guy that I thought would be a good playmaker in this league, just never been able to stick anywhere. He's been playing very well with Stevenson and Stone, like I said, in a small sample, controlling somewhere around 58% of the shot attempts when on the ice, scoring 3.5 goals per 60 minutes. So perfectly correlated on the power play. Nashville also playing a back-to-back, so it's probably going to be Kevin Lankinen in net and not UC Saros. Kind of like Vegas 1 here. Not in so much on Vegas 2. Jonathan Marchessault didn't practice yesterday. It was Phil Kessel practicing in his spot on the second line. I don't know if Smith and Carlson are good enough to carry Kessel at this point of his career. So I don't even hate on the Nashville side if you want to get to like a two-man of like Johansson and Duchesne or something like that. They played reasonably well together this year. Trainin, I think, scored yesterday. Not a bad Nashville 2. So I think Vegas 1, Nashville 2 is where I'd approach here. Vegas 1 being my favorite line in this game. Working backwards, Chicago and Columbus, Gaudreau, Johnson, Marchenko, the top line for the Blue Jackets. Bemstrom, Roslovic, Nyquist, the second line. That Columbus second line perfectly correlated on the power play, at least as of last game. That's kind of interesting to me because Chicago's penalty kill obviously not very good, hasn't been very good pretty much all season, hasn't really gotten that much better. Over the last few weeks, I was looking since Thanksgiving, bottom 3 by shots against, bottom 3 by goals against while shorthanded. Not a bad power play spot for Columbus. They are missing a lot of bodies, obviously. Line and Jenner and Werenski's still out and all that, but not a bad spot for Columbus too, I think, here. If you're looking for a really cheap line, not a super cheap line. I mean, they juiced up Benstrom's price by $1,900 in one game. So he's up to $4,400. Rozovic at $3,800. And then Nyquist at $3,900. So, you're looking off the top of my head, you're looking at a $12K plus line. But cheap enough to put in with some of the Buffalo guys or some of the Boston guys if you want. I think that might be where I would look for a cheap line. On the Chicago side, somebody pointed out in our last show that had Chicago on it in the chat how much Patrick Kane had been shooting. He's up to 84 shots in his last 20 games. The problem is only 4 goals on those 84 shots. He's shooting under 5%. I'm embarrassed to say I've actually watched a couple of Chicago Blackhawks games this year, and Kane is shooting a lot, but it looks like he's lost something off his fastball. Like, he was a guy that generally had a kind of a quick release, even if it wasn't a really hard shot. And now it's not a hard shot whatsoever. Like, you see some that are almost fluttering. So I think Kane's still fine as a one-off. It is the Columbus Blue Jackets. Chicago does have a 2.9 total, which has got to be one of the highest, if not the highest, they've had on the road all season. So, Domi and Kane, I think, makes it a reasonable 2-man here, but I'd like Columbus too. Buffalo, Boston, obviously, is the main event of the slate. What we were talking about in our Discord yesterday is how Boston's second line really hasn't been very good this year. At least this iteration, Zacha, Krejci, Pasternak, 2.4 expected goals for, 2.7 against. Only 2.3 actual goals for per 60 minutes, 2.9 against. Like, just bad. And I think a lot of it is honestly Krejci. If you look at his expected goals impacts, they're pretty bad. And I don't mean just bad for Boston. I mean bad across the league. He's just putting up a lot of points because he plays a lot of minutes with David Pasternak. I would hope he would put up a lot of points playing so much with Pasternak. So I agree with you. I think Buffalo too is kind of in play here as I assume what would be a contrarian stack. I don't think a lot of people will be chasing after Buffalo with the lowest road total, the lowest total on the early slate, just in general. So I think I'm with you. I would probably stay away from the top line for the Sabres, dip down to the second line. I don't think you have to full stack, but even a 2-man, if you want a super cheap stack to maybe game stack with Boston, I think like a Peterka Quinn 2-man is something that's perfectly fine here. So probably Buffalo 2 on their side. Boston side, it's the same thing as always. It's the Boston power play guys. Buffalo is a really bad penalty kill. They being saved by their goalies to some extent. So, Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak, if you want to do something like that, just full 5-man stacking the top Boston power play and then dumpster diving the rest of your team, I think is something that you can do. I don't know with Hampus Lindholm being, but it's the Boston power play guys for me in this one. Just want to mention Owen Power played 21 minutes, Samuelson 22 minutes in Power's return in their last game. So Samuelson's still kind of viable at his price on the blue line, but it's Hampus Lindholm I like on the blue line the most in that one.
Yeah, the one thing I will err on the side of caution with Lindholm, even though, we got the bark, is that he does start the game on power play 1, but occasionally they run the 5-forward power play with David Krejci. But either way, Lindholm is a good play. As Jake mentioned in the chat, Buffalo won 46.8% chance of a top 2 stack. They're also 23,000 on DraftKings on the road going into Bergeron. In 1 to 3, I'm going to pass if you want to play them in MME. Au revoir, Capitan. You know what I mean? Like, go for it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's just a 3-game slate. There are only 6 teams. Like, I wouldn't even hate it in single entry, but it's just really tough to build a lineup around elsewhere. I guess there are a lot of cheap guys in that Chicago Columbus team that are usable though. So don't hate it.
Yeah. So let's talk about this 5-game main slate where you can actually win more than an Arby's gift card. We have the Ottawa Senators with a 3.3 total heading into Detroit. The Red Wings have a 3.2 total. Looks like we got Cam Talbot, Magnus Hellberg are probable. I'm just going off what's in the lineup builder. We'll have morning skates soon. Magnus Hellberg, still min price on DraftKings. So if he does start, that could be interesting, even though he did get shelled in the last game. Detroit, as far as we know, still running the same lines. Ottawa as well. I mean, if we're going to keep bashing Detroit 1 and they're going to keep doing the thing, I guess, here's the thing. They're 14-7 on DraftKings. They have a fairly high total. Their ownership is in the double digits, but Ottawa's been bad defensively. They've had a bad penalty kill. They're fully correlated. I don't know if I'm going to jump onto the bandwagon here and play them personally, but I think they're a good play tonight. If Rasmussen's price has not moved. If he has gone up into the 5,000s, yeah, I'm going to say no. Perron's price has come down into 4,800. I think Detroit 1's in play here. And then on the flip side, I think, I see the second line getting more ownership than the top line. I would go to the top line here. If you want to leave off Giroux and add in, Bratherson and DeBrincat to make it a power play stack, I think that is an option as well.
Yeah, I do think we should start with the Detroit top line. It's been a couple times now. I've just kind of joked in our Discord that if Michael Rasmussen logs me out, I'm going to be very, very upset.
And he's logged us out.
Yeah, he had that 4-point game not too long ago. Didn't have a massive game in that comeback against Pittsburgh, but had the shot bonus on DraftKings with an assist. He's definitely been doing stuff. Perron and Rasmussen are up to a reasonable sample together this year, and they played pretty well. They're up over 90 minutes at 5-on-5, 2.9 expected goals for, 2 against per 60 minutes. That's an expected goal share approaching 60%. They've been really good. I can't imagine Dylan Larkin's gonna, nuke that line's ability to generate offense or play well defensively. And they'll go into that Ottawa 1 matchup. I was looking at Ottawa 1's numbers in the month of December.
It is bad.
And one thing that we keep bringing up every show whenever Ottawa is on the slate is shooting percentage. It's just their problem hasn't been generating offense. Their problem has been finishing the chances that they get. Ottawa's top line, 3.7 expected goals per 60 minutes in the month of December. That's a very, very good offensive number. 0 goals scored. It's almost unfathomable the kind of run that this line has been on at 5-on-5. Now, obviously, Tim Stützle was injured for a few games in that mix, and that's certainly playing into it. But Brady Tkachuk has 43 shots in his last 11 games, almost 4 shots a game, and 1 goal. If you're shooting 2.3% or whatever, 2.4%, you're not going to score a ton. I think it's a matchup that would probably favor Ottawa 1. And as I was looking at the top stacks tool, they're coming in with pretty good leverage. They're the fourth highest top 2 stack that we have by our top stacks tool. And yet they're not coming in with nearly as much ownership, 6th most ownership, even lower, 8th most ownership, just under 10%. Because they are a little, $2,000 more expensive than the second line over on DraftKings. So I think Ottawa 1 is definitely in play. I do like Ottawa 2 today here, though. And, their ownership and top 2 stacks are both well within reason. 2.9 expected goals for, 2.1 against in the month of December. That's 58% expected goal share. They actually are scoring 4.4 goals per 60 minutes. DeBrincat he's starting to score. His shooting percentage has turned around. It's still not regressed all the way. He's only at like 13 goals, I think, on the season, but if he's shooting his normal, 14, 15%, he could be up around 20. Going into that Detroit second line, Ernie and Copp just have not played well together this year. 155 minutes for Ernie and Copp on the same line, 1.2 expected goals for, 2.6 against. What's saving them is great goaltending behind them, particularly Ville Husso. So I think it's a pretty good matchup for that Ottawa second line. Obviously, you get two guys on the top power play unit to bring kind of Batherson. Detroit's penalty kill is starting a little bit of a slide. So probably not a terrible spot for the Ottawa power play guys. I mean, you need their power play guys in general. This is a team that has been relying on power play production this season. I think you said it in the last show. They're kind of like Vancouver in that sense that if the power play doesn't go off, you're probably not getting a whole lot from them, at least not in full stacks. So I do like that Ottawa second line. I'm looking at the top stat or at our lineup builder actually, and they're carrying a slightly higher projection, like raw points projection, than the Ottawa top line, and they're cheaper. They're $2,000 cheaper. Now they'll probably, like I said, they'll probably be a little bit higher owned because of that, but it's a better matchup. You get 2 out of 3 guys on the top power play as you would with the top line. I really, really like Ottawa too here. I think you can dip down again to Detroit 3, but I don't think this is the game where I would necessarily be dipping down to third lines. I think there are other spots on the slate where you can do that. So don't mind it playing Detroit 1 here. I think it's a fine matchup, but I think it's Ottawa 2 that I like the most in this game.
Yeah, it's just really hard to 5-on-5 stack the Senators. Like Pinto's actually, he's a rookie. He has his ebbs and flows in the season. He has his ups and downs. He's kind of in a hot spot right now. They really miss Josh Norris 5-on-5. It really lengthens their lineup. But yeah, like the reason I want to play Ottawa 1 is just because I get Stützle and Tkachuk on the power play. But like if you just want a 4-man like Tkachuk, Stützle, DeBrincat, Batherson, I think that's perfectly fine. But like, yeah, if you're going 5-on-5, it would be that second line just because that second line for Detroit has been absolute garbage. And they're also 3 and 4. Not that it's a huge deal, but like because most of these teams are just coming off the Christmas break. But you never know. Maybe some of these guys have plans tonight. They just want to get through the game and go out and party in Detroit and end up in Windsor, Canada in the morning. That only happened to me once back with a pickup truck, but we won't talk about that. Anyway.
I was going to say, was that Canadian? I think that's a plot to Canadian bacon, but I can't quite remember.
Yeah. It also happened to me. I started my night in Ohio, ended up in Detroit, ended up in the next morning in Windsor, Canada.
Lovely place.
Yes, very nice place. But let's move to the blue line. Enough about my escapades in college. I think Tomas Chabot, 5,800 is a very, very good play tonight. Here's the problem with the Detroit power play quarterbacks. We never know who it is. The first game of the back-to-back, it was Phil Hronek. They didn't tell us because Cedar was on power play 1 before that. Then the next night, we assumed, Hronek was on power play 1. It's going to be him again. Wrong. It was Cedar. So, I don't know. I don't really want to play either of them because I just don't know who it's going to be. Because Cedar, if I knew it was going to be Cedar, I'd maybe have some interest in him. But, like, if he doesn't get that power play time, his peripherals have fallen off a cliff. So, I'd rather just play Jake Wallman because he's the man.
I was going to say, why are we talking about the power play defenseman when we're just going to play Jake Wallman again? I should mention, shout out, people in YouTube chat will recognize the name Saul Goodman. Mr. G hit in qualifier to get to the Fantasy Hockey World Championships again this season. Congrats to him. Used it using Jake Wallman in his lineup. My heart was full, Josh.
Yes.
Best Christmas present a guy could ask for. Congrats to him and congrats to Jake Wallman for he's finally reaching the level that I thought he could get to, and it's really nice to see him play that well. Yeah, I'm right back in on Wallman. This is a guy that's that had very good zone entry and scoring chance creation numbers last year in a small sample, and that's kind of why that I thought he might be able to break out this year. And he's getting the minutes. Like even last game, it was a little bit depressed, but he was still close to 20 minutes. It was in, that 1930 to 20 minute range. So as long as he's playing that much and he's not priced at like 4,700 or something, I'm going to keep playing Jake Wallman. So yeah, if you want to risk with one of Cedar or Horonic, and find out which one's going to be on the top power play, I mean, go ahead and flip your coin. But what I said in the Discord, it seems like they're not committed to a top power play defenseman, in the sense like, if Cale Makar, and we'll get to Colorado in a second, if Cale Makar has like a 45-second shift and then the opposing team takes a penalty, Cale Makar is staying on for the power play, right? But if Filip Hronek has a 45-second shift and the opposing team takes a penalty, he's coming off for Cedar, and vice versa. So that's kind of the problem here. Cedar's, I think, is a fine play, but I mean, I'd rather just save the money and go play Wallman again. On the Ottawa side, Jacob Bernard-Docker actually played like 22 minutes or something in his return for the Ottawa Senators. I was kind of surprised to see that, because he's not a guy that's played a lot of minutes so far this season. It was only his 7th game, but that was the highest for him of the season and only his 2nd time over 20 minutes. 3K, 3.3 total. Probably not going to have a ton of ownership, as people will play Hamonic, I think, or pay up for Shabbat. I don't mind JBD here as kind of like that, in between guy that's not getting that power play time, but is a reasonable price, could play a lot of minutes with a high total.
Yeah, Ottawa beat writers are really like pumping him up as like this top prospect guy. So I think Ottawa's trying to make it work with him. So yeah, don't mind him at 3K. Let's move to the next one. Toronto Maple Leafs with a 3.2 total. Heading into Colorado, the Avalanche have a 2.9. Matt Murray, Alexander Georgiev probably here. I played the Leafs last slate against the Coyotes. Can't believe I'm saying this, but the Nick Bjugstad line really hemmed the Matthews line down. What? Yeah, what? Anyway, I don't know. Like, going back to the Leafs top line here makes some sense. Like, they're not getting drastically heavy ownership for a 5-game slate. That top line for Colorado, like, it's good, but it's not great. Georgiev's been a bit shaky. I don't know. Like, I like going back to the Toronto top line here. Jimmy, I know you're the resident Coyotes stan, but Matthews getting hemmed down by Nick Bjugstad, that's just, that's a scene. But like, going back to the Matthews line here makes some sense. I kind of have some interest in the Colorado second line here, going into Tavares Marner. Evan Rodriguez, top power play. They're not getting a bunch of ownership, and I know like Newhook doesn't really do it for DFS. I guess you could one-off Evan Rodriguez here, but like pairing him with Newhook or pairing him with Malgin to save some money here actually makes some sense to me going into Tavares Marner.
Here's my one quibble. I'll say this about Colorado too, is that Yarncroc is just Alex Kerfooting that line. He's making them worse offensively. I don't think you just have to look at shot creation, scoring chance creation, whatever, compared to most wingers they've had on that second line with Tavares and Marner. The numbers are down. Even the goals scored aren't very good. 2.5 goals per 60 minutes with Yarncroc there. Like, that's just not good, and it's bad for Toronto. But the defensive numbers are really, really good. I don't think that's a surprise. Yarncroc's typically been known as a good two-way winger. That's kind of why Toronto went out and got him. But that Colorado second line has been good. We brought it up on the last show that Newhook and Rodriguez, even without Nichushkin or Rantanen or whomever on their line, they've been making it work, which has kind of surprised me because Rodriguez had a good year last year, but we needed to see it again from him. It seems like he's on that path. Newhook didn't look great last year, didn't have a very good start this year, but it seems like he's playing well enough with Rodriguez. So it's one of those things, like, I think it's a good line, but it is a tough matchup. But there are only 10 teams on the slate, and they're fairly cheap at home. You know what I mean? So, like, I see where you're coming from. I think it's fine. It is a tough-ish defensive matchup, I think, against Tavares and Marner. You're right about the Colorado top line, about league average defensively, and even worse than league average can get the job done against Toronto, as we just saw with our lovely Arizona Coyotes. I'm not expecting the same thing here again, but that Colorado top line is also generating offensively, 3.1 expected goals for per 60 minutes. Saw a tweet the other day. I think Colorado has the lowest 5-on-5 shooting percentage in the month of December in the league. Hopefully that turns around tonight. Obviously, they're all going to play like a pile of minutes, the Colorado top line, between 22 and 26 minutes over the last handful of games, as the team dresses 8 defensemen and only plays 4 of them. Like this team's honestly dressing 18 players and playing like 13, maybe 14 on a regular basis. It's absolutely crazy. But I think if you want to, there are different ways to stack Colorado if you're a little worried about maybe some high ownership here. Like I think, just subbing out JT Compher for Evan Rodriguez is something you can do for power play stacking. Compher's certainly not the straw that stirs the drink, either at 5-on-5 or on the power play. But by the same token, I think if you want to get a little bit cheaper, I think you can double center stack, right? Go Compher, Rodriguez, and Rantanen, something like that. Save $1,000 going from Lehkonen to Compher, or a few hundred going from Lehkonen down to Rodriguez. There are different ways to stack that Colorado top line with Erod, and that's probably the approach that I would take here going into Toronto 1. Toronto 1 hasn't been great defensively, 2.7 expected goals against. They've gotten pretty good goaltending. Even if the goaltending has kind of faltered for Toronto, Toronto went on a crazy not a win streak, but let's say a regulation loss less streak. But the goaltending hasn't been as good. 3 goals against Philly, 4 goals against St. Louis, obviously 6 goals against Arizona. Not long before Christmas, 5 goals against Washington. Like, they're kind of coming back down to earth, which I think is something that we probably should expect. So I do like Colorado 1. I would think I'm with you. I would probably find a way to mix Evan Rodriguez in. Like, he has 4 shots per game since he returned from his injury. I do like mixing Erod with that top line here. On the Colorado side, Toronto side, sorry, it is Toronto 1 or bust. I don't think I'm going to be stacking that second line going into Colorado 2. Even the second or third line from the Avs have been pretty good defensively, or at least, around average, something like that. So, if you want to play Toronto 2, it's fine. But Toronto 1, they're just generating so much. 4.9 expected goals, 5.4 actual goals. Matthews over 4 shots per game in his last 5 games. He still has more. The crazy thing about Austin Matthews is that he started the year with a low shooting percentage. That has started to regress, but it's still only at 10.6%. His 3-year average was over 17%. And he's still on pace for a 40-goal season. So, with more regression, he's on pace for a 55 or 60-goal season. It is Toronto 1 that I really do like in this game. It's just a question of, price and ownership. They're coming in at relatively the same price as that Dallas top line that we're going to get to in a second. And I think the Dallas top line, obviously, in a much better spot, coming in a little bit higher owned, but in a much better spot. Colorado doesn't take a ton of penalties, 3.2 times shorthanded per game. The Leafs power play still struggling to score, even with the 5 forwards. Generating a lot of offense, shooting percentage still very low. That has to regress at some point, but it makes me think we're going to see Morgan Rielly back on the top power play at some point here. So I'll say, if between the 2 top lines, I like Toronto 1 the best, but I think both are very much obviously in play. I would probably try to find a way to get Evan Rodriguez in my Colorado 1 stacks one way or another. But Toronto 1, Colorado 1 for me. And I'm interested to get your thoughts on the defenseman here, because like I said, I do think there's a chance we see Morgan Rielly back on the top power play. Probably not something they're going to practice. They're probably just going to throw him in there, midway through the game sometime. What do you think?
Yeah, we've been seeing these teams go 5 forwards on the power play, and it just hasn't been great around the league. So, yeah, Morgan Rielly, Toronto power play 2 scored twice in Arizona. I feel like Bunting's going to come off at some point, and Morgan Rielly's going to go on just to, run the power play. Not that he does much with it, but Bunting hasn't done much on the power play either. So eventually he's going to get back there. I think you can still play him at 4,300. he'd probably be the only Leaf defenseman that I would play. On the Colorado side, it's probably just like Makar's price has come down under 7,000. I can't remember the last time Makar's price has been that low. It's either him or Girard. And I just, it's funny because they dress like 49 defensemen. They always come out for a shift after the TV timeout. So like the big guys get like an extended timeout break and then they play like 4 minutes.
It's honestly like some of the funniest stuff that I've seen from a team in the way that they're playing their players. Kudos to Colorado on that. Yeah, I'm worried about ownership on Makar because he is so cheap. He's the cheapest he's been all season. Like, I don't have last season's prices in front of me. I would assume this is the cheapest he's been maybe since that 2021 bubble season. I got to think he started in the 7Ks last year, but at his price, like it's tough not to play him. I don't care what the matchup is. Sam Girard, I think, is fine again, but I honestly think it's Makar or bust for me. In the Colorado game, I think it's fine to fade him as well because he probably will come in with a lot of ownership and it's a short slate, right? So I think it's fine. It's fine if you want to take the chance to fade him. But I was looking earlier, like we talk about how the Colorado power play hasn't been great without Nathan MacKinnon. Cale Makar has 51 shots in 11 games since McKinnon got hurt. Like he's putting up over 4.5 shots per game without Nathan MacKinnon. It seems like that's where the shots are going. I do like Makar here. I agree with you. It's Morgan Riley or nothing for me on the Leaf side. In that lost Arizona, they all played between 17 and 21 minutes. But like, what are you going to do with that with none of the guys playing the power play? At that point, you're just basically going by price. So, if you want to slam in a cheap Liljegren or something, yeah, go ahead. But for me, it's Morgan Riley or nothing.
Yeah. Agreed there. As we mentioned off the hop, we are sponsored by BetMGM. We can get you a BetMGM risk-free bet up to $1,000 and 2 months of Stokastic Plus Platinum for free. All you got to do is click the link in the description, follow the steps. It includes making a Stokastic membership. If you don't have one, you can create one. It's free. Then making a BetMGM sportsbook account. You got to deposit what you're going to bet. Obviously, make your first paid bet. I have a bet for you. So if you want to do this, you can tail this bet. And if you lose, you will get credited in site credit. But the bet plus money prop here, Braden Point, anytime power play point against the Coyotes at plus 155 on BetMGM Sportsbook. So if you want to tail that today and you are never signed up for BetMGM, you can do that. You get it risk-free. You can get 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum. So why wouldn't you do that? Click the link in the description below. Sign up. Tail that bet. Win some money. It is risk-free. Get your 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Join the Discord. Say, Josh, man, thank you for that bet. I won so much money. Anyway, on to the next one. San Jose Sharks with a 2.6 total. Heading into Dallas, the Stars have a 3.8 total. Capo Kakinen, Jake Ottinger probable. This is, as our resident Nihas would say, a primo spot for the Dallas top line here. For price comparison, 11-12. They're like 20,600. They have been more expensive at times this season. This is a very good matchup. The Sharks penalty kill has kind of fallen off because in the beginning of the season, Reimer had his save percentage on the penalty kill was through the roof. So I really do like Dallas one here. Their projections are insane. They are projected for 10% more than Toronto one here at 44.4 points. On the flip side, not a big fan of San Jose one here in this matchup. I think if you're going to do anything, you go to Hurdle of Bank. It is a 5-gamer, so I guess you got to, beggars can't be choosers when going to certain lines here. For me, it would be Hurdle Bank.
Yeah, because here's the thing. It's like, do I want to stack the San Jose Sharks and leave Timo Meier off? You know what I mean? That
feels bad.
Yeah, that's just kind of where I'm going with this, because it is a pretty good spot for the Dallas top line. Like this iteration of the San Jose top line, Meier, Couture, Barabanov just hasn't been all that great so far this season. Not a big sample, 55 minutes. That'd be about 5 games worth, maybe a little less of ice time at 5-on-5. 2.3 expected goals for, 2.2 against. They're generating under 40 shot attempts per 60 minutes. Like, that's very, very slow, low event hockey. That's why, like, I really do understand what you're saying with San Jose too, because the way that San Jose one's playing, they're just not playing that well offensively. It's just how often do I make San Jose stacks and not put Timo Meier on them, right? That's just kind of like the internal struggle that I'm having right now. But yeah, that San Jose top line, not that great offensively. I think there's a pretty good chance the Dallas top line just kind of runs over them. I mean, the Dallas top line, it should be noted, isn't scoring that much at 5-on-5. I was looking at their last 3 weeks, only 2.2 goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 and 115 minutes together. It's all shooting percentage driven, which makes sense. I mean, I think this team was running pretty hot through the first 5-6 weeks of the season. Like, we were going to see some regression from that top line eventually. It certainly has come for Jason Robertson. He's kind of like he's Brady Tkachuk of late. He has 1 goal over his last 12 games, 42 shots in that span, shooting 2.3% or whatever it is. He's still generating a lot of shots, obviously, and a lot of shot attempts. He's just not scoring. Shooting percentages are a fickle thing. It is a pretty good matchup for the Dallas top line. What it should be said is the Dallas top power play unit is still scoring at a very high rate. And as you mentioned, the San Jose penalty kill has fallen off, but it's save percentage driven. Because as you said, Reimer was just on a crazy tear through the first, 6 weeks of the season on the penalty kill. He got injured. Other goalies came in. San Jose is still allowing the 3rd fewest shots against on the penalty kill over the last 5 weeks in the NHL. That's, it's still really good. It's just the penalty kill save percentage, and Dallas is a power play that can shred anybody. So I really, really do like the Dallas top line in this matchup. But like you said, probably going to have a fair amount of ownership. I imagine maybe some single entry contests, you might see them over 20% as a 3-man unit. So if you want to fade them because of ownership, I get it, but it is a pretty good spot, even if San Jose doesn't take a ton of penalties. I think you're fine to go back to the Ben Johnston Marchment line again. I think that line is, unofficially the second line now, even though they might be Dallas 3 in some lineup builders. Why Johnston's even shooting a little bit of late, 13 shots in his last 5 games. He hasn't been a big shooter all season. It's nice to see him get involved. Jamie Benn's still in the top power play. If you want a cheap-ish 2-man stack, I think you can leave Ben off and just do a Johnston Marchment 2-man and hope, the Dallas power play doesn't nuke tonight. I think that's perfectly fine. I don't know if I go to the Kiviranta, Seguin, Dellandrea line. They have been playing reasonably well in a small sample, but Seguin has been having a lot of trouble finishing, really, ever since he had those hip surgeries. Just not, doing that well shooting wise. He's only shooting around 11% or something like that. We have seen him 12, 13% before, going back a few years, still even worse. So it's Dallas top line, maybe some Johnston Marchment 2-man if you need a cheap-ish 2-man. On the San Jose side, I hate to say it, but I kind of agree with you. I think a Hurdle, LeBanc 2-man, Hurdle, Nieto, if that's what they end up going with the morning seat, might be the best here, because I don't really like the way that top line for San Jose is playing, and it's a pretty bad matchup going into Dallas 1.
Yeah, and about the San Jose penalty kill, they played the Rangers a couple times this season, and the Rangers have a very good power play. And for somehow, the Sharks, for being a terrible defensive team, have a good penalty kill. And what they do really well is they don't allow cross-ice passing on the penalty kill. And that is the Rangers' bread and butter. Panarin's advantage at it. Cross-ice, so, you got to really be really good puck movement on the power play. But Dallas Stars arguably have the best power play in the league, so I think they will be fine. Let's move to the blue line here. Miro Heiskanen, 5,200. That price is pretty good. He kind of needs to shoot the puck more, but at 5,200, I think it's playable. Esa Lindell, again, at 3,200. is good. Niels Lundqvist kind of starting, the peripheral machine is churning a little bit here at 3,400. I think I still prefer S. Lindell, but don't mind Lundqvist. On the Shark side, Erik Karlsson's price has come down as well. He was like 8,600 at times this year, 7,300. Don't think this is the best matchup, but it is worth noting that his price has come down. I don't know if I want to play anybody on the Sharks here, but it'd probably just be Mario Ferraro.
Yeah, Ferraro's always in play for me. It's probably worth noting Karlsson's not going to be nearly as high owned as guys like Makar or guys like Shabbat here tonight. So maybe a decent contrarian play kind of in that sense. But I agree with you. I mean, I just don't think there's a lot of Sharks defensemen that I'm going to play here. Like even Ferraro 3K, like I prefer him, in that 2,800 range. You know what I mean? Agree on S. Lindell. 16 shots, 22 blocks in his last 10 games. He's getting involved, shooting and blocking shots. So, yeah, don't mind him at 3,200 tonight.
Let's move on to, I don't even know what to call this game. Vancouver Canucks with a 2.8 total. Heading into Calgary, the Flames have a 3.7 total. Spencer Martin, Jacob Markstrom probable. Oh, boy. I think this is the first time Calgary's been home with these lines in a while.
Yes. Let me double check that real. They had one home game against Edmonton coming out of the break. I forgot about that. Yeah, but other than that, that was their only one.
I feel like they're going to send out Backlund, Coleman, Mangiapane against top comp, whatever they think top comp is here. Probably Horvat, Besser. So that would free up Lindholm to Foley, Dubé for second and third line matchups, which is a good matchup. Although, they've been better with Dubé up there than Huberdeau, which is just an absolute sentence I never thought I would say ever. They still haven't been great. Like Dubé, I don't know. I think he makes that line. He's just kind of like a firecracker. I don't know how else to. He's always making plays, but then he's also just doing really stupid things. But I think that line is probably my preferred line. If you want to go to Kadri Huberdeau for the power play, I think that's fine. They're getting a little bit more ownership, so I think I would just go to the top line. You just kind of if you never watched hockey before and you play NHL DFS, it's a little bit easier clicking in Dylan Dubé because you haven't seen the shenanigans he pulls on the ice. On the Vancouver side, I don't even know. These lines are just the third. I guess it would just be the top line, but it's just a brutal matchup. The second line has Curtis Lazar on it. The third line has Lane Peterson on it. They're just boat anchors. So, I don't know. I'd go to the Vancouver top line, but it's just a brutal matchup.
Well, and here's the other problem with Vancouver is they didn't practice yesterday, and they just blew up their lines in that third period against Winnipeg a couple games ago. Elias Pettersson and Andrei Kuzmenko started the game with Lane Peterson on the wing. And then in the third period, Ilya Mikheyev got a few shifts alongside them. And then Connor Garland got a few shifts alongside them, right? And then they went and stacked the top line with Bo Horvat, Brock Besser, and JT Miller for the third period. So we honestly won't know what the Vancouver lineup is going to look like. We're doing this. It's nearly 10 o'clock Eastern in the morning now. We probably won't know for 4 or 5 hours what this Vancouver lineup is going to look like, if they even have a full morning skate, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the problem here. I'm assuming Pettersson and Kuzmenko are going to play together. And I'm assuming that Besser and Miller are going to play together. Whether that changes, I don't know. In that setup, I assume Besser and Miller would be considered the top line. And I did look while you were talking, Calgary's home game a few nights ago against Edmonton. They did send out that Backlund, Coleman, Mangiapane line against McDavid and Hyman from Edmonton. So I assume, if they go back to Mikheyev, Horvat, Besser, I assume that's the line that we'll see Backlund, Mangiapane, and Coleman. That third line for Calgary has been absolutely unreal for the Flames. A little over 60 minutes together, 5 expected goals scored or generated per 60 minutes, 1.9 against, 72% expected goal share. 90 shot attempts generated per 60 minutes in their time together. Not finishing yet. That's kind of the problem. They're shooting under 2%, which, Blake Coleman's going to Blake Coleman every once in a while. But they are just running over the opposition. And if they don't go out against Kuzmenko and Pettersson, they're going to run over any Vancouver line that they see. I think they could even run over Pettersson and Kuzmenko, to be quite honest. So I really do like that Calgary third line. It's just that they're coming in with a lot of ownership. That's kind of the problem. We have them as 1.5% top 2 stack, 6% ownership. That's a lot of negative leverage. It's because they're cheap in a 3.7 home total. You can stack that line, with your Torontos, with your Colorados, with your Dallases. I think that you'll see that'll be fairly common. So I do I hate to say it, I do kind of like the Dylan Dubé line today. Coming in with reasonable leverage. They don't have much ownership coming in on them. They have been playing well. 75 minutes together, 3.9 expected goals for, 2.2 against, carrying something like 63% of the shot share. Here's the problem is since they've gone to these line combinations, they've really spread out the ice time. There are times where Nazem Kadri's been at 19, 20 plus minutes a game for some stretches. That's not been the case of late. Everybody's basically been between 13 and 18 minutes. You'll have guys Lucic will be closer to the 13-minute mark, but then you'll have Lindholm and Kadri closer to 17, 18 minutes. Not a lot of ice time, but it is a pretty good power play spot for the Flames. You get Lindholm and Toffoli on the top power play unit. They're not coming in with a lot of ownership. They're going to get good matchups at 5-on-5 against the Canucks. Toffoli's, kind of starting to shoot a little bit, which has been nice. And, like I said, the power play matchup is just really good. Vancouver's penalty kill, their save percentage their goalies just keep killing them. Save percentage is 770 or something over the last few weeks. So do like Calgary 1, really love Calgary 3. I just think they're coming in with too much ownership. On the Vancouver side, Pettersson and Kuzmenko is where I would go back to. I think whoever the Horvat, Besser, Miller, whatever combination they go with, they're going to see that Calgary 3 line, and they're going to get shut down all night. And it's a bad power play spot for Vancouver. So Pettersson and Kuzmenko is where I go on the Canucks side, but I don't think I'm stacking Canucks tonight.
Yep. If you've never had a Stokastic membership, we can get you an NHL 3-day risk-free trial, and you get full access to everything Stokastic has to offer for NHL. We have projections, ownership, top stacks tools, rankings, discords. It is very, very good. So click the link in the description below. If you've never signed up, get that risk-free trial. You get a test drive, everything that we have. You even get in the Discord. Come into the Discord, say, it came from YouTube. Click the link. I'll give you a thumbs up emoji. Coming up after us as well, the NBA strategy show at 10 o'clock with Terry and Ryan. So if you're looking for NBA, stick around for that. Let's get to the last game of the night. We have the Winnipeg Jets with a 3 total heading into Edmonton. The Oilers have a 3.4. Connor Hellebuck, Jack Campbell, probable. Oilers won last night with Stewie Skinner, so it's probably going to be Campbell tonight. We'll have to wait and see on Draisaitl, but if he didn't play last night, he's probably not going to play tonight. Oh, boy. Flowchart season here. Bad matchup. I guess it's a good match. Well, I don't know.
Jack Campbell in net, it's a good matchup.
Yeah. I think you go to a power play stack here. I think you can go Dubois, Connor, Scheifele, call it a day. On the Edmonton side, it's going to be the power play guys again. It's just going to be a broken record. Even if Draisaitl's out, we saw Yamamoto and Puljujarvi split power play one time here. So I think that top line with Puljujarvi, McDavid, Hyman, you can full stack here. Even if Puljujarvi doesn't see a ton of power play one time, I think you can include him because he will most definitely be the lowest owned of the top line guys here. And if you look at their numbers last year, McDavid's best numbers were with Puljujarvi on his wing. So Edmonton won for me.
Yeah, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the Oilers here because, they're always in play. Even if Draisaitl's out, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter really the matchup. They're always an option. What I will say is what I said about Vancouver on the last show is Winnipeg is a bad power play matchup for most teams. The Jets 2.7 times shorthanded per game. That's a half power play less per game than the league average. Not allowing a lot of goals, not allowing a lot of shots. No Draisaitl. Like, it seems like this is one of the nights where I am personally probably not going to play at least a full Edmonton stack. One-offing McDavid or whatever is always in play or something like that. But it's just a pretty bad power play spot for Edmonton, and I think they don't necessarily require. Well, yes, they do require the power play to get there to have big nights, and I just don't think Winnipeg is the spot to do it. I agree with you. It is a pretty good power play spot for the Jets. Even without Blake Wheeler, they're generating over 60 shots per 60 minutes on the power play, over 10 goals per 60 minutes on the power play without Wheeler. We saw last game, you probably don't want to leave Scheifele off your Winnipeg stacks, even if he's not playing with great players. So yeah, Connor Dubois, Scheifele, something like that if you want. Getting to the blue line real quick, Josh Morrissey may be out in this one. That's something to watch for. He was hurt in the last game, only played like 1 32nd shift in the last 12 minutes or something. Might not play tonight. Neil Pionk was moved to the top power play unit even when Morrissey was in the game. So I assume Pionk's on the top power play unit regardless. Sam Gagner might jump back up there if Morrissey is out, but we're going to have to wait to see on Morrissey's availability here in a couple hours. But I think that what I like the most in this game is some sort of Winnipeg power play stack.
Yep. And that is the 5-gamer. That means we have 10 goalies. Who you like in a net?
None of them.
Yeah, no, me either.
No, I think I'll go to Connor Hellebuyck tonight. Pretty cheap, good bad power play spot for the Oilers. I don't think he's going to carry a ton of ownership on the road in Edmonton, so I don't mind Hellebuyck. Don't mind Spencer Martin if you want to really ride the Lightning against the Calgary Flames. We got lucky, I think, with Stuart Skinner earlier this week. Maybe Spencer Martin can kind of pull off the same deal here. That's about it. Like, if you want, if I'm paying up, like way up for a goalie, it's Ottinger, but I think this is a night where I'm paying down in net and probably down quite a bit.
Yeah, I guess you could take a stab on Georgiev too. Like, it's Georgiev or Hellebuyck for me. It is very uncomfortable clicking in any goalie tonight. So if you have a lean, just play him. Who you liking for your hat trick pick?
Our buddy, the Bink Cat, Alex DeBrincat. He's my hat trick pick.
Going to keep the Spice Lord alive here, going Jamie Benn.
Oh, all
I guess
right.
It's not really spicy, but he is a third liner.
I saw Jamie Benn got engaged recently. Congrats to him. Maybe he'll have some extra juice. That post-engagement juice is what I think the gamblers call it.
Yeah. Sure. We'll go with that. Yeah. So for Slim Cliffy, I am Josh. You know me. Even if I don't know me, you know me. We will be back on Tuesday. Make sure to click those links in the description. Hop into Discord. Good luck, everybody.
Good luck. Happy New Year, everyone.